in 1891. Carlo Bucaro from Chicago Italian Patriots, Mike Niedzinski, President of the Polish American Congress, 29th Ward Alderman Chris Taliaferro, Allison Pierce-Slovan, Midwest Director of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, a global Jewish human rights organization, Lisa Ryan, our first Vice President, JCCIA, Salvatore Camarda, Maria Santissima Laritana, and second Vice President, JCCIA, 30th Ward Alderman Ariel Raboyers, Teresa Panzica from the Christopher Columbus Book Club, Illinois State Representative Anthony DeLuca, Cook County Commissioner Peter Silvestri, past President, Joint Civic Committee of Italian Americans, Joanne Spada, Robert Allegrini, Consul General of San Marino, 38th Ward Alderman Nick Sposato, Frank DiPiero, Sergeant Arms, JCCIA. Lisa?
In late 19th century America, there was a growing prejudice against Italians. They emigrated to the South in large numbers because of poor conditions at home and to fill the shortage of cheap labor created by the end of slavery. Many settled in the French Quarter, which by the early 20th century became known as Little Sicily.
New Orleans Mayor Joseph A. Shakespeare expressed the common anti-Italian prejudice, complaining that the city has become attractive to the worst class of Europe, Southern Italians and Sicilians. The most idle, vicious, and worthless people among us, he claimed that they were filthy in their persons and homes, concluding that they were without courage, honor, truth, pride, religion, or any quality that goes to make a good citizen.
On the evening of October 15th, 1890, New Orleans Police Chief David Hennessy was shot as he walked home from work. When asked who had shot him, Hennessy reportedly whispered, "The Dagos."
The next day, complications set in and the police chief died. Local papers perpetrated the anti-Italian sentiment as the Times, Democrat, and the Daily Picayune freely blamed Dagos for the murder without no proof and no witnesses.
The murder was quickly followed by mass arrests of local Italians. Mayor Joseph A. Shakespeare told the police to scour the whole neighborhood and arrest every Italian you come across.
Within 24 hours, as many as 250 Italians were rounded up. Most were eventually released for lack of evidence. 19 men were ultimately charged with the murder or accessories and held without bail.
The trial for 9 of the suspects began on February 16, 1891. Much of the evidence presented at trial was weak or contradictory.
Captain Bill O'Connor, the witness who claimed to have heard Hennessy blame the Dagos for the assassination, was never called to testify.
The judge acquitted 6 of the defendants and declared a mistrial for the other 3. But all 9 men were returned to the prison for the night, a decision that would prove fatal.
The following morning, an ad appeared in local newspapers calling for a mass meeting near the prison. The citizens were mad at the acquittal and were told to, quote, "come prepared for action."
Demonstrators gathered near the parish prison. Some accounts say as many as 20,000 armed with muskets and axes.
The angry mob decided to take matters into their own hands, and they marched to the prison, chanting, "We want the Dagos." They stormed the gates and found 11 of the imprisoned men. They were shot, dragged into the square, and hanged. The largest lynching of vigilantes in American history.
Italy was outraged, threatening conflicts with America. President Benjamin Harrison declared the first nationwide celebration of Columbus Day in 1892, commemorating the 40th anniversary of his voyage to the Americas.
In 2019, Mayor LaToya Cantrell issued a formal apology to Italians for the tragic actions that have been a source of ill will for New Orleans for 128 years.
We have a very short piece of that apology proclamation by Mayor Cantrell. You may or may not be able to see it, but please listen.
As this issue, in my opinion, is called for a formal apology. On March 14th, 1891, 11 Italians were made the victims of a lynch mob on the streets right here in the city of New Orleans. It is my role to step up and wrangle with the difficult parts of our shared story, and to do so with honesty and with seriousness. What happened to those 11 Italians, it was wrong, and the city owes them and their descendants a formal apology. This attack was an act of anti-immigrant violence, and violence like this cannot be tolerated. The Italian American community is not alone in their cries for justice. We know that as well. So I'm here today because it's not just about black and white. It's not just about what happened then. It's about what we do and what we do next. And I issue this formal apology for ugliness that is 128 years old. And I ask you to continue to stand with me against anti-immigrant violence, against division, and to stand up for what I've coined a city of yes. And for the idea that we have a responsibility to be inclusive, to be intentional, and to be the kind of people that our children are not apologizing for 128 years from now. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. We cannot change history, but we can acknowledge it and we can grow from it. So I want to say thank you to our Italian American community who has made New Orleans what she is today. It's a fact. It's a fact. For your contributions to the culture and economy, our landscape of our city, and of course our country. We cannot deny that.
And now I'd like to ask to the microphone the Vice President of the Old Neighborhood Italian American Club here in Chicago, who will